Hey, settle in for a minute. You know, the world actually has a hidden operating system. It's this whole set of rules and secrets that adults rarely explain to you, and honestly, your textbooks almost never show you. Most people only figure this stuff out way later in life, if they ever do at all. But today, in this explainer, I want to entrust these secrets to you. Think of this as your insider's guide to the minds that actually built our world. We're going to look right past those memorized dates and exams and see the real truth about the people who shaped history.
I mean, you've probably sat in class looking at a textbook and felt like every historical figure is just this rigid, boring statue, right? They always have these super serious expressions just staring down at you from the page, demanding that you memorize their formulas like P1V1 equals P2V2. It feels completely disconnected from your actual life. Well, I've got a secret for you. If you tear away that stiff packaging, you'll find that underneath, these so-called proper geniuses were actually wild, eccentric dreamers. In fact, many of them were writing what basically looked like time-traveling sci-fi manuscripts.
Section 1. The Physics Madman. Robert Boyle, the Time-Traveling Prophet.
So you might know him from science class as the very serious father of modern chemistry. But back in the 17th century, Robert Boyle was this wealthy eccentric who basically locked himself in his lab. After discovering his famous gas laws, he genuinely believed he'd cracked the fundamental code of the universe. In the 1660s, which is right around the time the Qing dynasty was just getting started on the other side of the world, he wrote a manuscript. But it wasn't a physics paper. It was a wish list, a wildly imaginative list of future human superpowers that he believed science would absolutely unlock one day. And his peers? They thought he had completely lost his mind.
80%. Modern historians recently dusted off Boyle's supposedly delusional wish list, and they were absolutely stunned. Out of his 24 crazy predictions, nearly 80% of them have entirely or at least partially come true today. He wasn't just a scientist playing around with air pressure. He was practically a time traveler holding a script for the future.
Let's actually translate his 17th century archaic language into your everyday reality. He wrote about the art of flying. Well, 300 years later, we've got airplanes and drones everywhere. He predicted the cure of diseases by transplantation, which probably sounded like dark magic back then, but today, organ transplants save lives every single day. He even wished for armor that is light and extremely hard, which we now know as Kevlar. Add in antidepressants, scratch and sniff stickers, GPS. Just let that sink in for a second.
Now, not everything on his list has happened just yet. Some of his predictions are still firmly in the magic phase. For example, he wanted us to emulate fish without engines, literally breathing underwater without scuba gear. He wanted us to attain gigantic dimensions, and, perhaps most relatably, he wanted freedom from the necessity of sleeping. I know that between your studies and my work, we'd both absolutely love a simple pill that replaces a full night's sleep. We haven't figured that one out quite yet, but hey, who knows what the future holds.
Section 2. The History Madman. Emperor Wu of Han, the ultimate immortal cultivator.
Your history books will tell you Emperor Wu was a strategic conqueror, but in modern terms, he was a severe patient of Chunibyo. You know that middle school syndrome where you're convinced you have secret magical powers? His absolute burning desire was to become an immortal god. Usually an emperor changes the national era name for some massive political reason. Not Emperor Wu. He changed the era name whenever he thought he saw a miracle. It was literally like a kid constantly changing their video game username. Spot a weird, one-horned deer? Boom. Change the era name to Yuan Shou. Dig up an ancient cauldron? Boom. Name the era Yuanding. His obsession ran so deep that he was incredibly easy to scam. A con artist named Liu Zongyuan showed up one day promising the elixir of life. Emperor Wu's inner fantasy world lit up so brightly that he actually married his own daughter off to this scammer. And just look at the titles he gave him. General Wuli, General Tianxi, General Shenxi. Combined, it basically translates to the general of the three realms. It sounds exactly like the final boss in an anime, doesn't it? Of course, when the emperor finally realized he'd been tricked, he was so furious he had the scammer executed.
Section 3. The Literature Madman, Liu Zongyuan, The Mountain Chunibyo.
If you study classical literature, the textbooks will tell you he was a tragic, banished official who wrote lonely travelogues. They paint him as this quiet, depressed guy. But that is completely wrong. When Liu Zongyuan climbed West Mountain and looked down at the world, he didn't write about feeling small. His inner Chunibyo fully awakened. He wrote, "My body is a shackle. I am one with the universe." When you strip away the classical poetry framing, he sounds exactly like an anime protagonist unlocking his ultimate power. He wasn't depressed up there on that mountain. He felt invincible.
I actually want to pause the history lesson right here for a second. Think about this. When you feel pressured at school, or when you feel lost about your future, or even when you're just simply overwhelmed by the weight of expectations, what do you think about? Where does your mind go to find comfort? Because we all have a secret place in our minds where we retreat when the world just gets a bit too heavy.
You see, these historical geniuses weren't just being weird for the sake of it. They were facing terrifying, harsh realities. Boyle lived in a time where a simple fever could literally be a death sentence. Emperor Wu faced the terrifying reality of mortality. Liu Zongyuan faced banishment and total isolation. Their wild imaginations, their grand delusions, these weren't weaknesses. They were superpower shields. They built these incredible fortresses in their minds to protect themselves from a world that was actively trying to break them.
And honestly, that is the true lesson I want to share with you today. Imagination is humanity's strongest resistance. Having a wild imagination, dreaming of impossible things, holding on to a bit of that Chunibyo spirit, it really isn't a disease. It's not immature. It is the most resilient, powerful way that we as humans endure difficult realities. It's exactly how we survive the dark so that we can build the light.
So never, ever hide your weird ideas. Don't throw away the strange concepts you sketch out in your notebooks. And please do not let the rigid, boring rules of the adult world convince you that your imagination is foolish. Because as Robert Boyle proved to us, today's fantasy is tomorrow's world. His crazy, unbelievable dreams from the 1600s are the exact reality you and I are living in right now.
I want to leave you with this one final thought. The world still has so many secrets waiting to be unlocked. There are prophecies from centuries ago that are still sitting in the magic phase, just waiting for someone brave enough to figure them out. So protect your inner fire. Nurture your wildest thoughts. Look closely at the world around you. Which of those unfulfilled prophecies will you be the one to invent? Take your time, keep dreaming, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.